Hi, this is Norbert, energy engineer, and explaining in video number 3 how to exploit the most exciting characteristics of the heat pump. I hope that you saw last week my project with a modified dehumidifier and the theory of heat pumps. Here I will explain some of the things about heat pumps that will make clear in which situations they are champions and can change our way of living. So for example, modern technology like cars change the way that we are moving, or also the microwave changes the way we are heating our food. First, the main advantage of heat pumps is that they typically give 3 times more heat than normal resistive heaters that you find in hair dryers, water boilers and electric radiators. So it's like a discount, get 3 and pay 1. Second, remember that each heat pump or air conditioner has a cold and hot side, so it will always produce heat and cold. It's your choice to place these sides where you want. You can even use both instead of discarding one side, as usually is the case, unfortunately. That will double the value of this device, and you should try to exploit this opportunity. Obviously, you have to find the 2 applications for these both sides, because the heat pump will produce heat and cold at the same time. So, do you have always the useful destinations for heat and cold? No. And you therefore discard it? Why that? Do you throw also away money if you don't need it at the moment? Of course not. You save it. You can do the same with heat and cold. See this double storage in our holiday home on Mount Etna in Sicily. This is super rational because it combines the get 3 and pay 1 principle of the heat pump with the usage of both sides of it. Where will you find this technology? Other than in special situations in the industry. But you can have it. Remember that the heat pump will give more heat than cold, because the electricity going into the compressor has to come out somewhere. So you might have a condenser that gives 3 times the energy that the compressor is taking, while the evaporator gives only 2 times that amount. Or it might be for a good heat pump 4 times respectively 3 times. Well, together that would be 7 times the paid electricity in the last case. Our holiday home is open during the 6 warm months, so it is easy to find an application for both heat and cold. In winter you might think of making your own big fridge or even small food room for the cold side and use a warm heat exchanger for space heating. Our system has a 600 watt heat pump from a mobile airco, working between 1 cubic meter hot water tank and another cubic meter of cold water. We have here also solar photovoltaic with electric batteries, and the thermal storage is just an additional way to store energy. But this thermal storage is much cheaper and safer than the electric batteries. Third, important with the heat pump is that it will decrease its efficiency when the difference in temperature between the both sides becomes too high. It's much the same as a water pump. If you try to pump water on your house at 10 meter height, it will require more energy per cubic meter. 50 degrees Celsius difference is quite normal, and under this condition you may get 3 times the energy on the warm side that you put into the compressor. Therefore you should try to pick out the applications where this condition is fulfilled, or change the situation so that you can use the heat pump. For example, working with low temperature heating systems like floor heating is a way to adapt the demand side to lower temperatures. But also condensing boilers require that you work with low temperatures, so nothing new. In the first video, number 1, I explained how to adapt radiators in your home in a simple way, so that they are good for low temperature water. So there you have it. Please right click on the link to open that video in another tab, so that you can continue to look this video. Number 4 of exciting things that increase the flexibility of the heat pump. There are 2 options to take the heat or cold from the device. You can use air with a fan near the heat exchanger, or liquid. The heat exchanger is inside the bath. You can decide this for both sides independently. Air has the advantage that it is easier. See my project at the hot side. Water has the advantage that it can contain more energy, so that it can easier pass through a tube and get to the other side of the wall, but also to store the heat or the cold energy. Okay, how big is the difference? 1 liter of water has the same heat capacity as 3.5 cubic meter air. This way with water you have also less noise, because the fan is what you hear in an air conditioner The compressor is really silent. Now listen well. A project where the heat pump is really great is the fresh air heat recovery for home. If you want to stay healthy, you have to change the air in your house. But that means that you are replacing warm air inside with cold air outside. You should do that one time each 3 hours, and that's about 20 kilojoules for each cubic meter of your home. 1 kilojoule is equal 1000 joule, and that's unit of energy. So you need these 20 kilojoule for each cubic meter of your home, and that's maybe 240 times 20, or nearly 5000 kilojoule, that's 5 megajoule, or 1.3 kilowatt hour for an 80 square meter house. And that each 3 hours. If you do that for 15 hours per day that you are home, you need already close to 1 cubic meter of natural gas per day for only this heat loss, without counting the other losses. The heat pump can do a great job to recover the heat loss of the outgoing air and heating the incoming air, because in this case you need a taking unit and a giving unit, and heat pump is just ideal for that. Note that in this picture there's only a normal heat exchanger between the outgoing and incoming air. There's not a heat pump. The normal heat exchanger will recover much less, but the heat pump is much better. A heat exchanger is like a ball that's just able to go downhill. But a heat pump is like a car that can go uphill. In summer you have the same fresh air problem if you want new air from outside but keep the heat outside. The nice fact is that, for example in winter, the outgoing air is warm and will pass through the cold side of the heat pump and thus allow a very good working condition for the process. There's even a negative temperature difference, so that you will have a high efficiency factor, more than 3, and you have constantly new but warm air coming from outside. And let's agree, that's much better than fresh air which is cold. I will realize this project in the future with this humidifier. Yes, this small thing here. You don't need a big heat pump. This small 150 volt dehumidifier is indeed enough for the calculation example above. I mean one house. Remind, however, that's only for the heat recovery of the expelled warm air. This small heat pump can do miracles. And in this case, you don't need to convert the heat exchangers from air to water. So that will make the project a little bit easier. Both heat exchangers remain in air. I plan to make a standard ventilation hole of 10 cm diameter in a wall and divide that with insulation in right and left semi-circular channels for exhaust and fresh air, so out and in. Resuming these exciting features of heat pumps, you can see why I like heat pumps so much. It's just because they are used in so many ways. It's just like with normal pumps for water. You see them everywhere, and I can't understand why that isn't the case for heat pumps. Now that was it for today. I will let you know when I realize the fresh air heat recovery system. Next week I will show you another project that you see in very few houses, but it's not so expensive if compared with the benefits. The partial backup power system to protect your most essential electricity consumers against a blackout. If you have questions, please leave them in the space below, and please help me to continue this new channel by sharing this video with people that need it or want to realize innovative projects. Please subscribe to be sure you won't miss my future exciting projects. I will be here for you next week, and have a good time.